What if I told you that the most magnetically attractive people you know never try to be attractive? They don't chase attention. They don't perform for others. And they certainly don't follow the generic advice that floods social media about being more charismatic. Instead, they possess something far more powerful: silent attraction. While 99% of people are busy trying to impress others through loud gestures, constant talking, and attention-seeking behaviors, the top 1% understand a fundamental truth about human psychology. Real attraction isn't about what you say or do to get noticed. It's about who you become when you think nobody is watching. The most attractive people in any room aren't the ones commanding attention through force. They're the ones who naturally draw others in through their presence, their energy, and their deeply ingrained habits that signal confidence, intelligence, and emotional maturity. These aren't tricks or techniques you turn on and off. They're integrated parts of who you are. In this comprehensive guide, you're going to discover the scientifically backed habits that create silent magnetism. You'll learn why trying hard to be attractive actually repels people, and how developing the right internal systems creates an irresistible external presence. By the time you finish this, you'll understand exactly how to become the person others are naturally drawn to, without ever having to chase, perform, or compromise your authenticity. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming the best version of who you already are, and doing it so naturally that attraction becomes inevitable. Chapter 1. The Psychology of Silent Magnetism. The biggest mistake most people make when trying to become more attractive is focusing on the wrong things entirely. They obsess over what to say, how to act, or what techniques to use, completely missing the fundamental truth that attraction operates on a much deeper level than conscious behavior. Silent attraction works because it taps into the oldest, most primitive parts of the human brain. When we encounter someone who possesses genuine confidence, emotional stability, and social intelligence, our subconscious mind recognizes these as markers of genetic fitness, social status, and potential partnership value. This recognition happens in milliseconds, long before any words are exchanged. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Research from Harvard's Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Lab shows that our brains are constantly scanning for social signals that indicate someone's value as a potential ally, leader, or partner. These assessments happen through mirror neurons that unconsciously mimic and evaluate the emotional states and behavioral patterns of others. When you encounter someone with silent magnetism, your brain picks up on hundreds of microsignals. Their posture communicates confidence without arrogance. Their breathing patterns suggest emotional regulation. Their eye contact demonstrates presence and attention. Their movement patterns indicate physical awareness and control. None of these require them to say a single word, yet they create an immediate impression of attractiveness. This is why the most charismatic leaders, successful entrepreneurs, and naturally attractive people often seem effortless in their appeal. They're not performing attraction, they're embodying it. Their habits, mindset, and internal state create an external presence that others find magnetic. The research of Dr. Albert Mehrabian revealed that only 7% of communication impact comes from words, while 38% comes from vocal qualities and 55% from body language and presence. This means that 93% of your attractiveness has nothing to do with what you say and everything to do with how you carry yourself and the energy you project. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to fake these signals through surface-level changes. They force better posture, practice scripted conversations, or adopt behaviors that don't match their internal state. This creates incongruence, and humans are exceptionally good at detecting incongruence. When your external behavior doesn't match your internal reality, people sense something is off, even if they can't articulate why. Silent attraction works because it's authentic. It emerges from genuine self-development, real confidence, and actual competence. You can't fake the calm presence of someone who has learned to regulate their emotions. You can't mimic the natural confidence of someone who has built real skills and overcome genuine challenges. You can't replicate the social ease of someone who genuinely cares about others and has developed emotional intelligence. This is why the habits we're going to explore aren't just behaviors to adopt. They're transformative practices that change who you are at a fundamental level. When you develop these habits consistently, they rewire your nervous system, reshape your identity, and transform your presence in ways that create genuine magnetism. The people who possess silent attraction have typically spent years, often unconsciously, developing habits that signal high value to others. They've learned to be comfortable with themselves, to regulate their emotions under pressure, to show genuine interest in others, and to move through the world with purpose and presence. These aren't personality traits they were born with. They're skills they developed through consistent practice. Understanding this distinction is crucial because it means silent attraction is learnable. You don't need to be naturally extroverted, exceptionally good-looking, or blessed with charisma. You need to develop the internal qualities that create external magnetism. You need to build the habits that signal confidence, competence, and emotional maturity to everyone you encounter. The transformation happens from the inside out. As you develop these habits, they become part of your identity. You stop thinking about being attractive and start simply being attractive. You stop performing for others and start operating from a place of genuine confidence and self-assurance. This internal shift creates an external presence that others find irresistibly magnetic. Chapter 2. The Foundation of Presence and Energy Management. Before we dive into specific attractive habits, you need to understand the foundation that makes everything else possible: your presence and energy management. This is the invisible force that determines whether people are drawn to you or unconsciously avoid you, regardless of what you say or do. Presence is not about being the loudest person in the room or demanding attention. True presence is about being fully engaged with the current moment and the people in it. It's about having such complete awareness and control over your internal state that others can feel your groundedness and stability. The neuroscience of presence reveals why this quality is so magnetically attractive. When you're truly present, your nervous system is regulated, your breathing is deep and controlled, and your body language naturally opens up. This creates what researchers call psychological safety for others. People unconsciously relax around those who are genuinely present because they sense no threat, no agenda, and no emotional instability. Most people exist in a state of partial presence. They're physically in one place while mentally somewhere else. They're thinking about what happened earlier, worrying about what might happen later, or planning what they'll say next in the conversation. This scattered attention creates an energy that others find draining rather than attractive. Developing true presence starts with learning to manage your internal energy. Your energy is the sum total of your thoughts, emotions, physical state, and attention. When these elements are aligned and controlled, you project an energy that others find compelling. When they're scattered or conflicted, you project an energy that repels others, even if you're saying all the right things. The first component of energy management is emotional regulation. Attractive people have learned to maintain emotional equilibrium regardless of external circumstances. They don't get triggered by minor inconveniences, don't react emotionally to criticism, and don't allow other people's moods to dictate their own emotional state. This emotional stability is incredibly attractive because it signals psychological maturity and reliability. When others know that you won't become reactive, defensive, or emotionally volatile, they feel safe to be authentic around you. They can express themselves without walking on eggshells, knowing that you'll respond from a place of emotional intelligence rather than knee-jerk reaction. Developing emotional regulation requires understanding the physiology of emotions. Emotions are not just mental experiences. They're full-body phenomena that affect your breathing, posture, facial expressions, and vocal tonality. Learning to recognize the early physical signs of emotional activation allows you to intervene before your emotions take control of your behavior. The practice of conscious breathing is fundamental to emotional regulation. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes calm and clear thinking. When you breathe shallowly or rapidly, you activate your sympathetic nervous system, which creates stress and reactive behavior. Attractive people have often unconsciously developed breathing patterns that keep them in a state of calm alertness. They breathe from their diaphragm rather than their chest. They maintain a slow and steady rhythm, and they use their breath to reset their emotional state when needed. This creates a physical foundation for emotional stability that others can sense even from across a room. The second component of energy management is attention control. Where you place your attention determines the quality of your presence and the impact you have on others. When your attention is scattered across multiple concerns, your presence becomes diluted and unfocused. When your attention is completely engaged with the person or situation in front of you, your presence becomes magnetic. Developing attention control requires training yourself to be single-pointed in your focus. This means when you're in a conversation, you're 100% present with that conversation. You're not thinking about your phone, planning your next activity, or judging what the other person is saying. You're fully engaged with understanding, connecting, and responding authentically. This level of attention is rare in our distracted world, which makes it incredibly powerful when someone encounters it. People are so accustomed to partial attention that when they experience someone's complete presence, it feels almost intoxicating. They leave the interaction feeling heard, valued, and energized. The third component of energy management is physical awareness. Your body is constantly communicating information about your internal state, and others are unconsciously reading these signals. When your body is tense, contracted, or fidgety, it communicates anxiety and insecurity. When your body is relaxed, open, and grounded, it communicates confidence and ease. Developing physical awareness means learning to consciously relax unnecessary tension while maintaining alertness and engagement. It means becoming aware of your posture, your facial expressions, and your movement patterns. It means understanding how your physical state affects your mental and emotional state, and vice versa. Many people carry chronic tension in their shoulders, jaw, or stomach without realizing it. This tension not only affects how they feel internally but also creates an energy that others find uncomfortable. Learning to consciously release this tension while maintaining good posture and alert engagement creates a physical presence that others find appealing and calming. The integration of emotional regulation, attention control, and physical awareness creates what we might call grounded presence. This is the quality that makes someone's energy feel solid, stable, and attractive. It's not about being perfect or never experiencing difficult emotions. It's about having the skills to navigate your internal world in a way that allows you to show up authentically and powerfully in your external world. When you develop grounded presence, several things happen automatically. Your voice becomes more resonant and calm. Your eye contact becomes more steady and genuine. Your movement becomes more fluid and purposeful. Your listening becomes more attentive and empathetic. These changes happen naturally as expressions of your improved internal state, not as behaviors you're trying to perform. This is the foundation upon which all other attractive habits are built. Without grounded presence, even the most sophisticated social skills can feel manipulative or inauthentic. With grounded presence, even simple interactions become opportunities for genuine connection and mutual attraction. Chapter 3. Mastering the Art of Strategic Silence and Deep Listening. In a world where everyone is competing to be heard, the person who has mastered strategic silence and deep listening stands out like a beacon. This isn't about being quiet or passive. It's about understanding that silence and listening are active, powerful tools that create profound attraction and influence. The psychology behind strategic silence is rooted in several key principles. First, silence creates space for others to reveal themselves. When you're comfortable with pauses and quiet moments, you give people permission to think, process, and share more deeply than they would in rapid-fire conversation. This creates intimacy and connection that most people rarely experience. Second, silence demonstrates confidence and self-control. People who feel the need to fill every moment with words are often operating from anxiety or insecurity. They're afraid that silence means they're boring, that they're not contributing enough, or that others will judge them negatively. Someone who is comfortable with silence projects the confidence that they don't need to prove themselves through constant verbal performance. Third, strategic silence makes your words more impactful when you do speak. If you're always talking, your words lose their weight and significance. If you speak thoughtfully, and only when you have something valuable to contribute, people listen more intently and value your input more highly. The neuroscience of listening reveals why deep listening is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. When someone feels truly heard and understood, their brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. This creates feelings of trust, connection, and positive association with the person who provided that experience. Most people are terrible listeners, not because they don't care, but because they've never learned how to listen properly. They listen to respond rather than to understand. They're formulating their next comment while the other person is still speaking. They're filtering what they hear through their own experiences and judgments, rather than trying to understand the speaker's perspective. Deep listening is an active, engaged process that requires significant mental and emotional energy. It involves several key components that, when mastered, create profound attraction and connection. The first component is present moment awareness. Deep listening requires you to be completely focused on the person speaking and what they're communicating, both verbally and non-verbally. This means putting away distractions, making eye contact, and using your full attention to understand not just their words, but their emotions, intentions, and underlying needs. The second component is emotional attunement. This involves listening not just to the content of what someone is saying, but to the emotional subtext. Are they excited, anxious, sad, frustrated, hopeful? Often, the emotion behind the words is more important than the words themselves. When you can recognize and acknowledge someone's emotional state, they feel seen and validated in a way that creates deep connection. The third component is curiosity without judgment. Deep listening requires approaching others with genuine curiosity about their perspective, experiences, and thoughts. This means suspending your own judgments, opinions, and need to be right, and instead focusing on understanding how the world looks through their eyes. This level of curiosity is rare and incredibly attractive because it makes people feel valued and interesting. Most conversations involve people waiting for their turn to share their own thoughts and experiences. When someone encounters a person who is genuinely curious about them, it creates a powerful experience of being seen and appreciated for who they are. The fourth component is reflective feedback. This involves occasionally reflecting back what you've heard to ensure understanding and to demonstrate that you're actively engaged in the conversation. This might sound like, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because, or if I understand correctly, you're saying that. This technique not only ensures clear communication, but also makes the speaker feel heard and understood. Strategic silence works in conjunction with deep listening to create what researchers call conversational leadership. This is the ability to guide conversations not through domination or excessive talking, but through thoughtful questions, strategic pauses, and creating space for others to explore their thoughts and feelings. People who have mastered conversational leadership understand that the person who asks the best questions often controls the direction and depth of the conversation. They know that a well-timed pause can be more powerful than any words. They understand that making others feel heard and understood is one of the most attractive things you can do. The practice of strategic silence also involves knowing when not to give advice or try to fix someone's problems. Many people, particularly those who are naturally helpful, make the mistake of immediately jumping to solutions when someone shares a challenge or concern. However, most of the time, people don't want solutions. They want to be heard and understood. Learning to sit with someone's discomfort without immediately trying to fix it is a profound skill that creates deep trust and connection. It demonstrates emotional maturity and respect for the other person's autonomy. It shows that you trust them to find their own solutions and that you value the process of being heard over the outcome of solving problems. The magnetic quality of deep listening extends beyond individual conversations to how you're perceived in group settings. In meetings, social gatherings, or any group dynamic, the person who listens well and speaks thoughtfully often emerges as a natural leader, even if they say relatively few words. This happens because deep listeners often have the most insightful contributions when they do speak. They've been paying attention to the group dynamic, understanding different perspectives, and processing information, while others have been focused on getting their own points across. When they finally contribute, their words often synthesize or elevate the conversation in ways that others find valuable and impressive. Developing these skills requires conscious practice and patience with yourself. In our fast-paced, instant communication world, the ability to slow down, listen deeply, and use silence strategically feels almost countercultural. But that's exactly what makes it so powerful and attractive. Start by practicing in low-stakes conversations. Focus on listening for understanding, rather than listening for your turn to speak. Practice being comfortable with brief pauses. Ask follow-up questions that demonstrate you've been paying attention. Notice how people respond when they feel truly heard and understood. As you develop these skills, you'll find that your conversations become more meaningful, your relationships deepen, and your overall attractiveness increases significantly. People will seek you out, not because you're entertaining or impressive, but because you make them feel valued, understood, and heard. Chapter 4. The Power of Calm, Confidence, and Emotional Stability. Calm confidence is perhaps the most universally attractive quality a person can possess. Yet, it's also one of the most misunderstood. It's not about being loud, aggressive, or dominating. It's not about never feeling fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Calm confidence is about maintaining your center and emotional equilibrium, regardless of external circumstances. And it's this stability that others find magnetically attractive. The psychology of calm confidence is rooted in what psychologists call emotional regulation and distress tolerance. People who possess calm confidence have developed the ability to experience difficult emotions without being controlled by them. They can feel anxiety without becoming anxious in their behavior. They can experience disappointment without becoming negative or reactive. They can face uncertainty without becoming paralyzed or frantic. This emotional stability is attractive on multiple levels. From an evolutionary perspective, emotional stability signals that someone would be a reliable partner, leader, or ally during difficult times. From a social perspective, emotional stability creates psychological safety for others, allowing them to relax and be more authentic in your presence. From a personal perspective, emotional stability creates a sense of groundedness and authenticity that others find compelling and trustworthy. The neuroscience behind emotional regulation reveals why this quality is so powerful. When you maintain emotional equilibrium under pressure, you're demonstrating advanced prefrontal cortex function, the part of the brain responsible for executive decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. This is the most recently evolved part of the human brain, and its effective functioning signals high cognitive and emotional intelligence. People with calm confidence have typically learned to recognize the difference between feeling an emotion and being controlled by that emotion. They understand that emotions are temporary experiences that provide information about their internal state and external environment. But they don't allow these emotions to dictate their behavior or communication. This doesn't mean suppressing or denying difficult emotions. Emotional suppression actually creates more problems than it solves, and often leads to emotional explosions or passive-aggressive behavior. Instead, calm confidence involves acknowledging emotions while maintaining choice about how to respond to them. The development of calm confidence begins with understanding your emotional patterns and triggers. Most people have predictable emotional responses to certain situations, people, or stressors. They know they'll feel anxious before public speaking, frustrated in traffic, or defensive when criticized. However, they often feel helpless to change these responses. Calm confidence develops when you learn to recognize these patterns early and intervene before they take control of your behavior. This requires developing what psychologists call metacognition, thinking about your thinking. You learn to observe your emotional state from a slight distance, almost like a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. The practice of mindfulness is fundamental to developing this observational capacity. Mindfulness doesn't mean being perpetually calm or zen. It means being aware of what's happening in your mind and body in real time, without judgment or the immediate need to change it. This awareness creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your behavior rather than simply reacting automatically. Breathing is one of the most practical tools for maintaining calm confidence. Your breathing pattern directly affects your nervous system, and learning to breathe consciously allows you to regulate your emotional state in real time. When you notice yourself becoming triggered or reactive, a few deep, slow breaths can activate your parasympathetic nervous system and restore emotional equilibrium. Physical posture also plays a crucial role in calm confidence. Research from Harvard Business School shows that adopting confident postures for just 2 minutes can increase testosterone and decrease cortisol, creating genuine changes in confidence and stress levels. Standing tall, keeping your shoulders back, and maintaining an open chest position not only makes you look more confident, but actually makes you feel more confident. Calm confidence also involves developing what researchers call stress inoculation. This means gradually exposing yourself to manageable levels of stress, uncertainty, or challenge in order to build your tolerance and response skills. Just as physical exercise builds physical strength by subjecting muscles to controlled stress, emotional exercise builds emotional strength by subjecting your nervous system to controlled challenges. This might involve taking on public speaking opportunities, having difficult conversations you've been avoiding, or putting yourself in social situations that stretch your comfort zone. The key is to choose challenges that are difficult enough to promote growth, but not so overwhelming that they create trauma or damage your confidence. The way you talk to yourself internally has a massive impact on your ability to maintain calm confidence. People with emotional stability have typically developed what psychologists call self-compassion, the ability to treat themselves with kindness and understanding during difficult moments rather than harsh self-criticism. Self-compassion doesn't mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that making mistakes, experiencing setbacks, and feeling difficult emotions are part of the human experience. It means talking to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend who was going through the same situation. This internal kindness creates emotional resilience because it prevents you from compounding difficulties with self-attack. When you make a mistake, instead of spiraling into shame and self-criticism, you can acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move forward with your confidence intact. Calm confidence also involves accepting uncertainty as a fundamental part of life, rather than something to be eliminated or controlled. Many people destroy their emotional equilibrium by trying to predict, control, or guarantee outcomes that are inherently uncertain. They waste enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy trying to create certainty in an uncertain world. People with calm confidence have learned to be comfortable with not knowing how things will turn out. They understand that uncertainty is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be navigated skillfully. This acceptance allows them to take action without needing guarantees, to engage in relationships without needing to control outcomes, and to pursue goals without being attached to specific results. This comfort with uncertainty is deeply attractive because it signals emotional maturity and psychological strength. It demonstrates that you can be trusted to remain stable and functional even when things don't go according to plan. It shows that your sense of security comes from internal resources rather than external circumstances. The integration of all these elements, emotional regulation, mindfulness, physical presence, stress tolerance, self-compassion, and comfort with uncertainty, creates a quality of calm confidence that others find irresistibly attractive. It's not a performance or a facade. It's a genuine internal stability that naturally expresses itself in your presence, communication, and behavior. When you possess calm confidence, several things happen automatically. Your voice becomes more resonant and steady. Your eye contact becomes more direct and comfortable. Your movement becomes more fluid and purposeful. Your decision-making becomes clearer and more decisive. Your communication becomes more honest and direct. These changes occur naturally as expressions of your improved emotional regulation, not as behaviors you're trying to adopt. Chapter 5. Developing authentic social intelligence and emotional awareness. Social intelligence is the ability to navigate complex social situations with awareness, skill, and authenticity. It's not about manipulation or playing social games. It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of human interaction and responding in ways that create connection, trust, and mutual respect. This quality is incredibly attractive because it signals emotional maturity, empathy, and the ability to create positive experiences for others. The foundation of social intelligence is emotional awareness both of yourself and others. Most people go through social interactions with only surface-level awareness of the emotional undercurrents that are constantly flowing between people. They miss the subtle signs that someone is uncomfortable, the nonverbal cues that indicate interest or disinterest, and the emotional needs that lie beneath surface-level conversation. Developing emotional awareness begins with learning to read the emotional subtext of social interactions. Every conversation, every meeting, every social gathering has multiple layers of communication happening simultaneously. There's the surface level, what people are saying with their words. There's the emotional level, what people are feeling, and how those feelings are affecting their communication. And there's the relational level, how people are positioning themselves in relation to each other and what social dynamics are at play. People with high social intelligence have learned to perceive and navigate all these levels simultaneously. They can engage in surface-level conversation while remaining aware of emotional undercurrents and relational dynamics. This allows them to respond not just to what's being said, but to what's really happening in the interaction. The first component of emotional awareness is recognizing emotional states in others. This requires learning to read facial expressions, body language, vocal tonality, and energy levels. Most people focus primarily on words, but research shows that the majority of emotional communication happens through nonverbal channels. Learning to read emotional states involves paying attention to micro-expressions, brief, involuntary facial expressions that reveal genuine emotions. It involves noticing body language patterns that indicate comfort or discomfort, engagement or withdrawal, openness or defensiveness. It involves listening to vocal qualities like pace, tone, and volume that convey emotional information beyond the content of words. This skill develops through conscious practice and attention. Start by observing people in various settings and trying to identify their emotional states based on nonverbal cues. Watch how people's faces, postures, and energy levels change throughout conversations. Notice the difference between genuine and forced smiles, between authentic enthusiasm and polite interest, between comfortable silence and awkward tension. The second component of emotional awareness is understanding your own emotional impact on others. Most people are largely unconscious of the emotional effect they have in social situations. They don't realize that their anxiety makes others uncomfortable, that their excitement is overwhelming for some personality types, or that their intensity intimidates people who prefer gentler interaction styles. Developing awareness of your emotional impact requires honest self-reflection and feedback from others. It means paying attention to how people respond to your presence and communication style. Do people seem to relax or tense up around you? Do they open up or become more guarded? Do they seek out your company or seem to avoid deeper interactions? This awareness allows you to adjust your approach based on the situation and the people involved. It doesn't mean becoming a chameleon or losing your authenticity. It means understanding that emotional intelligence includes the ability to modulate your energy and communication style to create the most positive interactions possible. The third component of social intelligence is understanding group dynamics and social hierarchies. Every group, whether it's a family, workplace team, or social gathering, has implicit power structures, alliances, and communication patterns. People with high social intelligence can quickly assess these dynamics and navigate them skillfully. This involves recognizing who has formal and informal influence, understanding the unspoken rules and expectations of different social contexts, and knowing how to contribute to group interactions in ways that are valued and appreciated. It means understanding when to lead and when to follow, when to speak up and when to remain quiet, when to challenge and when to support. Social intelligence also involves what psychologists call cognitive empathy, the ability to understand and predict how others think and feel without necessarily feeling the same emotions yourself. This is different from emotional empathy, which involves actually feeling what others feel. Cognitive empathy allows you to understand and respond to others' perspectives without becoming emotionally overwhelmed or losing your own center. This skill is particularly valuable in conflict resolution, negotiation, and leadership situations. When you can understand how others see a situation, what their concerns and motivations are, and what they need to feel satisfied, you can find solutions that work for everyone involved. This ability to bridge different perspectives and find common ground is incredibly attractive and valuable in both personal and professional contexts. The development of social intelligence also requires understanding and respecting different communication styles and personality types. Some people are direct and appreciate straightforward communication. Others are more sensitive and need gentler, more diplomatic approaches. Some people process information quickly and prefer rapid-fire exchanges. Others need time to think and prefer slower, more reflective conversations. Highly socially intelligent people have learned to recognize these differences and adapt their communication style accordingly. They don't try to force everyone into their preferred way of interacting. Instead, they meet people where they are and communicate in ways that feel comfortable and natural for the other person. This adaptability is not about being fake or manipulative. It's about recognizing that effective communication requires flexibility and that showing respect for others' preferences is a form of kindness and emotional intelligence. It's about understanding that your way of communicating is not the only valid way, and that truly connecting with others often requires stepping outside your default patterns. Another crucial aspect of social intelligence is knowing how to handle social mistakes and awkward moments gracefully. Everyone says the wrong thing sometimes, misreads social cues, or finds themselves in uncomfortable situations. People with high social intelligence have learned to navigate these moments with humor, honesty, and grace rather than defensiveness or embarrassment. This might involve acknowledging a misunderstanding directly, using appropriate humor to diffuse tension, or simply moving past awkward moments without making them bigger than they need to be. The ability to handle social imperfection with confidence and ease is deeply attractive because it signals emotional maturity and resilience. Social intelligence also includes understanding the importance of social reciprocity and contribution. Attractive people understand that positive relationships require mutual benefit and contribution. They look for ways to add value to others' lives, whether through emotional support, practical help, interesting conversation, or simply positive energy. This doesn't mean keeping score or expecting immediate returns on investment. It means understanding that relationships thrive when both people feel they're receiving value, and that being genuinely helpful and supportive is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. The integration of emotional awareness, impact consciousness, group dynamics, understanding, cognitive empathy, communication adaptability, grace under pressure, and social reciprocity creates a quality of social intelligence that others find magnetic. It's not about being perfect or never making social mistakes. It's about navigating human interactions with skill, awareness, and genuine care for others' well-being and comfort. When you develop authentic social intelligence, people feel comfortable and valued in your presence. They trust that you understand them, that you won't judge them harshly for their imperfections, and that you genuinely care about their experience. This creates the foundation for deep, lasting attraction that goes far beyond surface-level chemistry or superficial charm. Chapter 6. The Art of Purposeful Movement and Physical Presence. Your body is constantly communicating information about your internal state, confidence level, and social value. Every movement you make, every gesture you use, and every position you hold sends signals that others unconsciously interpret and respond to. Most people are completely unaware of these signals, moving through the world with unconscious patterns that often undermine their attractiveness and social impact. The science of embodied cognition reveals that your physical posture and movement patterns don't just reflect your mental state, they actually influence and create your mental state. When you adopt confident postures and purposeful movement patterns, you don't just look more attractive, you actually become more confident, alert, and emotionally regulated. This creates a positive feedback loop where improved physical presence enhances mental state, which further improves physical presence. Purposeful movement is characterized by several key qualities that distinguish it from the unconscious movement patterns most people exhibit. First is intentionality. Every movement serves a purpose and is executed with awareness rather than happening automatically or nervously. Second is fluidity. Movements flow smoothly from one to another without jerky, abrupt, or hesitant transitions. Third is groundedness. Movements originate from a stable, centered base rather than from tension or imbalance. The foundation of attractive physical presence is what martial artists and dancers call centering. This involves maintaining awareness of your physical center of gravity, typically located just below your navel, and moving from this stable base, rather than from peripheral tension or imbalance. When you move from your center, your movements naturally become more fluid, purposeful, and graceful. Most people carry chronic tension in their shoulders, neck, or jaw, which creates movement patterns that appear anxious, rushed, or uncomfortable. Learning to consciously relax unnecessary tension while maintaining good posture and alert engagement is fundamental to attractive physical presence. This doesn't mean becoming loose or sloppy. It means finding the optimal balance between relaxation and readiness. Eye contact is perhaps the most powerful aspect of physical presence, yet most people use it poorly. Effective eye contact is not about staring intensely or maintaining constant visual contact. It's about making genuine, comfortable contact that demonstrates presence and interest without creating pressure or discomfort. The key is to make eye contact when listening, break it naturally when speaking or thinking, and return to it in a rhythm that feels organic and unforced. The quality of your eye contact should match the context and relationship. With close friends and intimate partners, longer periods of eye contact feel natural and connecting. With new acquaintances or in professional settings, briefer but genuine eye contact demonstrates respect and attention without creating intimacy pressure. Learning to calibrate your eye contact appropriately is a crucial social skill. Hand gestures and arm positioning also significantly impact how others perceive your confidence and attractiveness. Open gestures, where your palms are visible and your arms are uncrossed, signal openness and honesty. Closed gestures, where your arms are crossed or your hands are hidden, can signal defensiveness or discomfort. However, the key is authenticity rather than forcing open positions that don't feel natural. Walking patterns reveal enormous amounts of information about confidence and internal state. Confident walking is characterized by a steady pace, upright posture, and smooth gait. The head is held high. The shoulders are back, but not rigid, and the stride is neither rushed nor hesitant. The pace is determined by purpose rather than anxiety or self-consciousness. Many people walk too quickly because they're anxious or trying to appear busy and important. Others walk too slowly because they're uncertain or trying to avoid attention. Attractive walking finds the middle ground, moving with purpose and confidence at a pace that feels natural and unhurried. Sitting posture is equally important, particularly in social and professional settings where you may be seated for extended periods. Attractive sitting involves maintaining an upright but relaxed posture, keeping your feet grounded, and positioning your body in a way that demonstrates engagement with the environment and people around you. The way you use space also communicates important information about your confidence and social intelligence. Taking up appropriate space demonstrates confidence, while taking up too little space can signal insecurity, and taking up too much space can signal inconsideration or arrogance. Learning to gauge appropriate space usage in different contexts is a valuable social skill. Physical presence also involves being aware of and responsive to the physical comfort of others. This means maintaining appropriate personal space, being mindful of how your movements might affect others, and adjusting your physical presence based on the comfort levels and preferences of the people around you. Voice and speaking patterns are technically part of physical presence, since voice is produced by the physical mechanisms of breathing, posture, and muscle tension. Attractive vocal presence is characterized by speaking from a relaxed, grounded place, rather than from tension or anxiety. This typically results in a slightly deeper, more resonant voice that carries well without being loud or forced. The pace of speech is also crucial. Many people speak too quickly when they're nervous, or too slowly when they're uncertain. Attractive speech finds a moderate pace that allows for clear articulation and gives listeners time to process information without becoming bored or impatient. Developing purposeful movement and attractive physical presence requires conscious practice and body awareness. Start by spending time each day consciously observing your posture, movement patterns, and physical habits. Notice when you're holding tension, when your movements feel rushed or uncertain, and when your posture is closed or defensive. Practice basic centering exercises, such as standing with your feet shoulder-width apart, breathing deeply, and imagining roots growing from your feet into the ground. This helps develop the physical sense of groundedness that underlies all attractive movement. Work on individual elements like eye contact, hand gestures, and walking patterns in low-stakes situations before applying them in more important social or professional contexts. Remember that the goal is not to adopt a fake or performed physicality, but to develop authentic physical presence that reflects and supports your best self. Chapter 7. Building Unshakable Inner Confidence Through Competence. True confidence cannot be faked, performed, or adopted as a surface-level behavior. Authentic confidence emerges from competence, self-knowledge, and the accumulated evidence of your ability to handle challenges, learn from setbacks, and achieve meaningful goals. This inner confidence is far more attractive than any external display of bravado, because it's genuine, stable, and grounded in reality rather than insecurity or wishful thinking. The psychology of confidence reveals that it's not a fixed personality trait but a dynamic state that emerges from the interaction between your capabilities, your self-perception, and your track record of success in handling life's challenges. People with genuine confidence have typically invested significant time and effort in developing real skills, knowledge, and emotional resilience that give them legitimate reasons to feel capable and self-assured. The foundation of unshakable confidence is competence development. This means becoming genuinely good at things that matter to you and that create value in the world. Whether it's professional skills, creative abilities, physical fitness, emotional intelligence, or problem-solving capabilities, developing real competence gives you something solid to feel confident about. Many people try to build confidence through positive thinking or affirmations, but this approach often fails because it's not grounded in reality. Your subconscious mind knows the difference between genuine capability and wishful thinking. Real confidence develops when your self-perception aligns with actual evidence of your abilities and achievements. The process of building competence requires embracing what psychologists call productive discomfort. This means regularly challenging yourself with tasks and goals that stretch your current abilities without overwhelming you completely. It means seeking out learning opportunities that require effort, persistence, and the willingness to make mistakes while improving. This is why confident people often have a history of pursuing challenging goals and persisting through difficulties. They've accumulated evidence that they can learn new things, overcome obstacles, and achieve objectives that initially seemed difficult or impossible. This track record creates a deep sense of self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever challenges life presents. Self-knowledge is another crucial component of inner confidence. This involves understanding your strengths and weaknesses, your values and priorities, and your natural patterns of thinking and behaving. When you know yourself well, you're less likely to be thrown off balance by criticism, setbacks, or unexpected challenges because you have a stable sense of who you are and what you're capable of. Developing self-knowledge requires honest self-reflection, seeking feedback from others, and paying attention to your patterns of success and struggle across different areas of life. It means being willing to acknowledge both your capabilities and your limitations without defensiveness or harsh self-judgment. Confident people typically have a realistic but positive relationship with their limitations. They don't pretend to be good at everything or try to hide their weaknesses. Instead, they acknowledge their limitations while focusing their energy on developing their strengths and working around or improving their weak areas when necessary. This honest self-assessment actually enhances rather than undermines confidence because it's based in reality rather than fantasy. When you know your genuine capabilities and limitations, you can make better decisions about what challenges to take on, what help to seek, and how to leverage your strengths most effectively. Inner confidence also requires developing what researchers call emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, disappointments, and failures without losing your sense of self-worth or capability. This doesn't mean never feeling hurt, disappointed, or discouraged. It means having the internal resources to process these experiences and extract learning and growth from them. Emotional resilience develops through experience with adversity and the conscious development of coping strategies and support systems. Every time you face a challenge and find a way to handle it, you build evidence of your resilience and capability. Every time you experience a setback and recover from it, you develop confidence in your ability to handle future difficulties. The way you interpret and respond to failure significantly impacts your confidence development. People with growing confidence typically view failures as learning opportunities rather than evidence of inadequacy. They extract lessons from setbacks, adjust their approach, and continue working toward their goals, rather than giving up or seeing failure as confirmation of their limitations. This growth mindset, as researcher Carol Dweck calls it, is fundamental to building lasting confidence. It means viewing abilities as developable rather than fixed, seeing challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to your self-image, and understanding that effort and persistence are pathways to mastery rather than signs of inadequacy. Building inner confidence also requires taking calculated risks and stepping outside your comfort zone regularly. Confidence grows through expanding your sense of what's possible and what you can handle. This means saying yes to opportunities that stretch you, taking on challenges that require you to develop new skills, and putting yourself in situations where you might fail but will definitely learn. The key is to choose challenges that are within your zone of proximal development, difficult enough to promote growth but not so overwhelming that they create trauma or destroy your confidence. This requires honest assessment of your current capabilities and thoughtful progression toward more challenging goals. Social confidence. A specific aspect of inner confidence develops through positive social experiences and the cultivation of genuine social skills. This means learning to communicate effectively, developing empathy and emotional intelligence, and building the ability to connect authentically with different types of people in various contexts. Many people struggle with social confidence because they focus on trying to impress others rather than developing the skills to connect genuinely and contribute positively to social interactions. Real social confidence comes from knowing that you can add value to others' lives, that you can handle social challenges gracefully, and that you can be authentically yourself in social situations. The development of inner confidence is a long-term process that requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. It's not about becoming perfect or eliminating all self-doubt. It's about building a solid foundation of competence, self-knowledge, and resilience that allows you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and effectiveness. When you possess genuine inner confidence, it naturally expresses itself in your presence, communication, and behavior, without any need for performance or pretense. You become comfortable taking up appropriate space, expressing your thoughts and opinions, and pursuing your goals with determination and persistence. This authentic confidence is magnetic because others can sense its genuineness and stability. Chapter 8. The magnetism of authentic curiosity and genuine interest in others. In a world where most people are primarily focused on themselves, their own problems, and their own desires to be heard and understood, the person who possesses authentic curiosity about others stands out as remarkably attractive and magnetic. This isn't about being nosy or intrusive. It's about having a genuine fascination with the complexity, experiences, and perspectives of other human beings. The psychology behind why curiosity is so attractive is rooted in fundamental human needs for validation, understanding, and connection. When someone shows genuine interest in who you are, what you think, and how you experience the world, it creates a powerful feeling of being valued and appreciated. This experience is rare enough that when people encounter it, they often find themselves drawn to the person who provided it. Authentic curiosity is different from polite interest or social obligation. It's a genuine desire to understand and learn from others, driven not by what you might gain from the interaction, but by inherent fascination with human complexity and diversity. People can sense the difference between someone who is asking questions because they think they should and someone who is genuinely interested in the answers. The development of authentic curiosity requires shifting from a self-focused to an other-focused mindset in social interactions. Instead of thinking about what you want to say next, how you're being perceived, or what you can get from the interaction, you focus your attention on understanding the person in front of you as completely as possible. This shift often reveals how interesting and complex other people actually are. Most social interactions remain at surface levels because neither person is genuinely curious enough to explore deeper layers of thought, experience, and perspective. When you approach others with real curiosity, you often discover fascinating aspects of their lives, thoughts, and experiences that would never emerge in typical social exchanges. Genuine curiosity expresses itself through the quality of questions you ask and the attention you pay to answers. Curious people ask follow-up questions that demonstrate they've been listening and want to understand more deeply. They ask questions that invite people to explore their own thoughts and experiences rather than simply providing factual information. The difference between surface level and deep curiosity is evident in question patterns. Surface-level curiosity might ask, "What do you do for work?" Deep curiosity might follow up with, "What drew you to that field?" Or, "What's the most challenging part of your work?" Or, "How has that work changed the way you see the world?" Authentic curiosity also involves being curious about people's inner experiences, not just their external circumstances. This means being interested in how people think and feel about their experiences, what they've learned from their challenges, what they're passionate about, and what drives their decisions and priorities. This level of curiosity requires emotional intelligence and social sensitivity, because you need to gauge what people are comfortable sharing and how to ask about deeper topics without being invasive or inappropriate. The key is to create psychological safety through your own openness and non-judgmental attitude, making it easy for others to share authentically if they choose to. Curious people also tend to be excellent conversationalists because they know how to draw out the best in others. They ask questions that allow people to share their expertise, their passions, and their unique perspectives. They create opportunities for others to feel intelligent, interesting, and valued through the conversation. This ability to make others feel good about themselves through genuine interest is incredibly attractive because it's a form of emotional generosity. You're giving others the gift of your attention and interest, which often helps them see themselves in a more positive light and feel more confident and appreciated. The practice of authentic curiosity also expands your own understanding of the world and human nature. Every person you encounter has had experiences you've never had, has knowledge you don't possess, and has perspectives that could expand your own thinking. Approaching others with curiosity means viewing every interaction as a potential learning opportunity. This learning mindset is attractive because it signals intellectual humility and openness to growth. People are drawn to those who are still learning, still growing, and still open to new ideas and perspectives. It suggests a mind that isn't closed or arrogant, but is actively engaged with the complexity and diversity of human experience. Curiosity also involves being interested in people's stories, the narratives they tell about their lives, their challenges, and their growth. Everyone has a story, and most people rarely get the opportunity to share their story with someone who is genuinely interested in hearing it. When you provide that opportunity through authentic curiosity, you create a profound experience of connection and understanding. Being curious about others' stories doesn't mean being nosy about personal details. It means being interested in how people make sense of their experiences, what they've learned from their challenges, what they're proud of, and what they're working toward. These are the elements that make up the narrative of a person's life and reveal who they are at a deeper level. The development of authentic curiosity requires overcoming several common barriers. Many people are so focused on their own concerns and insecurities that they have little mental and emotional energy left to be curious about others. Others are afraid that showing interest will make them appear vulnerable, or will obligate them to share more about themselves than they're comfortable with. Some people avoid curiosity because they're afraid of what they might learn about others. They worry that deeper exploration might reveal differences that make them uncomfortable or might challenge their existing beliefs and assumptions. However, this avoidance typically limits their ability to form meaningful connections and understand the rich complexity of human experience. Practicing authentic curiosity requires developing comfort with not knowing, with being surprised by what you learn, and with having your assumptions challenged. It means approaching others with what Zen practitioners call beginner's mind. the willingness to encounter each person as if meeting them for the first time, without predetermined judgments or expectations. The cultivation of curiosity also involves becoming more comfortable with silence and pauses in conversation. When you ask a thoughtful question, people often need time to think before responding authentically. Being patient with these pauses and not rushing to fill silence shows respect for the person's thought process and often leads to more meaningful responses. Authentic curiosity extends beyond individual conversations to include curiosity about different cultures, perspectives, and ways of life. This broader curiosity makes you a more interesting person because you're constantly learning and growing, and it makes you more attractive because people can sense your openness and willingness to engage with diversity and complexity. When you develop authentic curiosity as a core part of how you engage with others, several things happen naturally. People seek out your company because they enjoy how they feel when talking with you. They share more openly because they trust your genuine interest. They view you as someone who understands and appreciates them for who they really are. This creates the foundation for deep attraction that goes far beyond surface-level chemistry or social performance. Chapter 9. Mastering Non-Verbal Communication and Subtle Influence. The vast majority of human communication happens below the level of conscious awareness through micro-expressions, body language, vocal tonality, and energy patterns that our brains process instantaneously but rarely analyze explicitly. People with magnetic attraction have typically developed, often unconsciously, the ability to communicate powerfully through these nonverbal channels while remaining sensitive to the nonverbal communications of others. The science of nonverbal communication reveals that humans are constantly transmitting and receiving emotional and social information through channels that operate faster than conscious thought. Within milliseconds of encountering someone, your brain has assessed their emotional state, confidence level, social status, and potential threat or attraction level based primarily on nonverbal cues. This means that your nonverbal communication is constantly shaping how others perceive and respond to you, regardless of what you're saying with words. People who understand and master these subtle communication channels have an enormous advantage in creating attraction, influence, and connection because they're communicating effectively on the channels that have the greatest impact. The foundation of powerful nonverbal communication is congruence between your internal state and external expression. When your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are aligned and authentic, your nonverbal communication naturally becomes more powerful and attractive. When there's incongruence between what you're thinking and feeling internally and what you're expressing externally, people sense something is off, even if they can't articulate what it is. This is why working on your internal state is so crucial for developing attractive, nonverbal communication. You can't fake the micro-expressions, energy patterns, and subtle cues that emerge from genuine confidence, emotional stability, and authentic interest in others. These qualities must be developed genuinely to be communicated authentically. Facial expressions are one of the most powerful forms of nonverbal communication. Yet most people are largely unconscious of what their face is communicating. Research has identified dozens of distinct facial expressions that convey specific emotions and social information. Learning to recognize these expressions in others and become more conscious of your own facial communication can dramatically improve your social effectiveness. The most important facial communication skills involve eye contact patterns, genuine versus forced smiling, and overall facial relaxation. Genuine eye contact involves looking at someone when they're speaking to demonstrate attention and respect. Making contact when you're speaking to emphasize important points and breaking contact naturally to avoid creating intensity or pressure. A genuine smile involves not just the mouth but the entire face, particularly the eyes. Fake smiles are easily detected because they don't engage the muscle around the eyes that create the slight squinting and wrinkles that accompany authentic positive emotion. Learning to smile genuinely when you feel positive and to maintain a neutral but pleasant expression when you don't feel particularly positive is more attractive than forcing fake smiles. Vocal tonality carries enormous amounts of emotional and social information. The pace, pitch, volume, and resonance of your voice communicate confidence, emotional state, and social positioning more powerfully than the words you're speaking. Most people are unconscious of their vocal patterns and how they affect others' perceptions and responses. Attractive vocal communication is typically characterized by speaking from a relaxed, grounded place in your body rather than from tension or anxiety. This usually results in a slightly deeper, more resonant voice that carries well without being loud or forced. The pace is moderate, allowing for clear articulation and giving listeners time to process information. Vocal confidence also involves being comfortable with pauses and silence rather than filling every moment with sound. Strategic pauses can emphasize important points, give others time to respond, and demonstrate that you're not anxious about maintaining constant verbal output. Posture and body positioning communicate social status, confidence, and emotional state more quickly than any other form of non-verbal communication. Open, upright postures generally signal confidence and approachability, while closed, collapsed postures tend to signal insecurity or defensiveness. However, the key is not to adopt rigid power poses, but to find postures that feel both confident and authentic to you. This usually involves maintaining an upright spine, keeping your shoulders back but relaxed, and positioning your body in a way that demonstrates engagement with your environment and the people in it. The way you use space also communicates important social information. Taking up appropriate space demonstrates confidence without being inconsiderate. This involves being aware of how much physical space you're occupying and whether it's appropriate for the context and the comfort of others around you. Gesture patterns significantly impact how your communication is received and understood. Open gestures, where your palms are visible and your movements are fluid, tend to be perceived as more trustworthy and engaging than closed gestures or sharp, jerky movements. The key is developing gestures that feel natural and support your verbal communication rather than distracting from it. This usually means using gestures that emerge from genuine enthusiasm or emphasis, rather than trying to adopt prescribed hand movements that don't match your personality or communication style. Energy and presence are perhaps the most subtle but powerful forms of nonverbal communication. Your overall energy level, emotional state, and quality of attention create an invisible but palpable influence on everyone around you. People can sense whether you're genuinely present and engaged or distracted and disconnected, whether you're calm and centered or anxious and scattered. Developing attractive energy and presence requires working on your internal state through practices like meditation, physical exercise, emotional regulation techniques, and stress management. When your internal state is calm, confident, and genuinely interested in others, This naturally expresses itself in your energy and presence without any need for performance or technique. Subtle influence through nonverbal communication involves understanding how your presence affects others and learning to create positive experiences for the people around you. This doesn't mean manipulation or trying to control others' responses. It means becoming skilled at creating environments where others feel comfortable, valued, and appreciated. This might involve matching the energy level of others when appropriate, using mirroring techniques to create unconscious rapport, or simply maintaining such positive, stable energy that others feel better when they're around you. The goal is always to create mutual benefit and positive experiences rather than one-sided advantage. Reading others' nonverbal communication is equally important for developing social intelligence and attraction. Learning to recognize signs of comfort and discomfort, interest and boredom, agreement and disagreement, allows you to adjust your approach and respond more effectively to others' needs and preferences. This skill develops through conscious observation and practice. Start paying attention to how people's facial expressions, postures, and energy levels change throughout conversations. Notice the non-verbal signs that indicate someone is engaged versus distracted, comfortable versus uncomfortable, interested versus polite but disengaged. The mastery of nonverbal communication is not about becoming a perfect performer, but about developing authentic presence and communication skills that allow your best qualities to be expressed naturally and powerfully. When your nonverbal communication is congruent with your genuine thoughts and feelings, it becomes a powerful tool for creating attraction, connection, and positive influence in all your relationships. Chapter 10. Creating meaningful connections without neediness or desperation. The ability to form deep, meaningful connections with others while maintaining your own center and independence is perhaps the most attractive quality a person can possess. This skill allows you to engage authentically and openly with others without the energy-draining neediness or desperate attachment that repels people and prevents genuine intimacy from developing. The psychology of neediness reveals why it's so destructive to attraction and connection. When you approach relationships from a place of need or desperation, you're essentially communicating that you don't have enough internal resources to feel complete or secure on your own. This creates pressure for the other person to fill your emotional needs, which most people find overwhelming and unattractive. Neediness also distorts your ability to see and respond to others clearly, because you're filtering everything through the lens of your own unmet needs. Instead of being genuinely curious about others and responsive to their needs and preferences, you become focused primarily on what you can get from them to feel better about yourself. The foundation of creating meaningful connections without neediness is developing what psychologists call secure attachment and emotional independence. This doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable or refusing to depend on others in healthy ways. It means having enough internal stability and self-worth that you can engage in relationships from a place of choice rather than desperation. Emotional independence develops through building a solid relationship with yourself, developing internal resources for emotional regulation and self-soothing, and creating a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling independent of romantic or social relationships. When your sense of worth and security comes primarily from internal sources, you can engage with others from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. This internal abundance allows you to approach relationships with what researchers call generous curiosity. Instead of being primarily focused on what you can get from interactions, you become genuinely interested in understanding, appreciating, and supporting others. This shift in focus from taking to giving is one of the most attractive transformations a person can make. The practice of generous curiosity involves approaching others with genuine interest in their well-being, their thoughts and experiences, and their growth and happiness. It means asking questions because you truly want to understand, rather than because you're trying to create a good impression. It means offering support and encouragement because you genuinely care, rather than because you're hoping for something in return. This doesn't mean becoming a people pleaser or sacrificing your own needs and boundaries. Healthy connection requires maintaining your own center while being genuinely responsive to others. It means learning to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion, and knowing when to give and when to maintain appropriate boundaries. Creating meaningful connections also requires developing what attachment researchers call differentiation, the ability to remain yourself while in close relationship with others. Many people lose themselves in relationships, adopting the interests, opinions, and preferences of others in an attempt to maintain connection and approval. This loss of self actually undermines rather than enhances connection because it eliminates the very uniqueness and authenticity that made you attractive in the first place. Meaningful relationships require two whole, independent people choosing to share their lives rather than two incomplete people trying to merge into one. Maintaining differentiation means staying connected to your own values, interests, and goals, even when they differ from those of people you care about. It means being willing to disagree, to maintain your own opinions, and to pursue your own path, even when others might prefer you to conform or accommodate. The ability to create meaningful connections also requires developing comfort with vulnerability and emotional intimacy. Many people keep relationships at surface levels because they're afraid of being truly seen and potentially rejected. However, real connection requires the willingness to share your authentic thoughts, feelings, and experiences, even when they're not perfectly polished or impressive. Healthy vulnerability is different from emotional dumping or oversharing. It involves sharing appropriate levels of authenticity based on the level of relationship and the other person's capacity to receive and respond supportively. It means being genuine about your experiences while taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being. The development of meaningful connection skills also involves learning to handle conflict and disagreement constructively, rather than avoiding it or allowing it to destroy relationships. Many people are so afraid of conflict that they either avoid expressing their needs and preferences or become aggressive when differences arise. Healthy relationship skills include the ability to express disagreement respectfully, to listen to others' perspectives without becoming defensive, and to work together to find solutions that honor both people's needs and preferences. This requires emotional regulation, communication skills, and the confidence that relationships can survive and even be strengthened by working through difficulties together. Creating meaningful connections without neediness also involves developing realistic expectations about relationships and other people. Needy people often expect others to meet needs that are impossible for any single person to fulfill, such as making them feel completely secure, validating all their choices, or eliminating all their loneliness and self-doubt. Realistic expectations recognize that every person has limitations, that all relationships have challenges, and that no relationship can meet all your needs for connection, understanding, and validation. This understanding allows you to appreciate what others can offer while taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being and life satisfaction. The practice of creating meaningful connections also involves learning to be present with others without agenda. Many people approach social interactions with hidden agendas, whether it's trying to impress others, get something they need, or avoid rejection or criticism. These agendas create subtle pressure that others can sense and find uncomfortable. Being present without agenda means approaching interactions with openness to whatever unfolds naturally. It means being willing to have conversations that don't lead anywhere specific, to enjoy someone's company without needing to achieve any particular outcome, and to let relationships develop at their own pace without forcing or manipulating their direction. This presence without agenda is incredibly attractive because it allows others to relax and be authentic. When people sense that you're not trying to get something from them or manipulate them toward a particular outcome, they can engage more openly and genuinely. The integration of emotional independence, generous curiosity, healthy differentiation, appropriate vulnerability, conflict resolution skills, realistic expectations, and agenda-free presence creates the capacity for meaningful connection that enhances rather than drains everyone involved. When you possess these qualities, people naturally want to spend time with you because they feel better about themselves and more alive when they're in your presence. This approach to relationships creates upward spirals, where positive interactions lead to deeper trust, which leads to more authentic sharing, which leads to stronger connection, which creates more positive interactions. The result is relationships that enrich everyone involved and serve as a source of attraction for others who want to experience the same quality of connection in their own lives. Chapter 11. Reading Social Dynamics and Navigating Complex Group Interactions. The ability to quickly assess and skillfully navigate complex social dynamics is one of the most sophisticated forms of social intelligence, and it's incredibly attractive because it demonstrates emotional maturity, awareness, and the ability to create positive experiences for everyone involved. Most people are largely unconscious of the invisible social currents that flow through every group interaction, missing crucial information that could help them connect more effectively and contribute more positively. Every social group, whether it's a family gathering, workplace meeting, or party with friends, has multiple layers of dynamics operating simultaneously. There are formal hierarchies and informal power structures, existing relationships and tensions, unspoken rules and expectations, and individual personalities with different needs and communication styles. People who can perceive and navigate these dynamics skillfully become natural leaders and sought-after companions. The foundation of reading social dynamics is developing what researchers call social situational awareness. This involves stepping back from your own concerns and anxieties to observe the broader patterns of interaction, the emotional undercurrents, and the needs and motivations of different individuals within the group context. Most people enter social situations focused primarily on their own performance, worrying about how they're being perceived, what they should say next, or whether they're fitting in appropriately. This self-focused attention prevents them from seeing the rich complexity of social information that's constantly available. Shifting to social situational awareness means asking different questions. What's the overall energy and mood of this group? Who are the formal and informal leaders? What are the unspoken tensions or alliances? Who seems comfortable and who seems out of place? What does this particular group value and appreciate? How can I contribute positively to the collective experience? The skill of reading power dynamics is particularly important for navigating complex social situations effectively. Every group has both formal authority structures and informal influence patterns. Understanding who has what kind of power and how they use it allows you to position yourself appropriately and contribute in ways that are valued and appreciated. Formal power is usually obvious through titles, roles, or explicit authority. Informal power is more subtle and emerges through things like expertise, charisma, social connections, or the ability to influence group decisions and directions. Often, the people with the most informal power are not the ones with the highest formal titles. Learning to recognize informal power requires paying attention to who others look to for opinions, whose suggestions get implemented, who can change the mood or direction of conversations, and who seems to have the most social capital within the group. These observations help you understand the real dynamics, rather than just the surface-level organizational chart. The ability to read emotional undercurrents is equally important for social navigation. Groups always have emotional dynamics that are separate from the explicit content of conversations. There might be excitement, tension, boredom, anxiety, competition, or affection flowing between different members, and these emotions significantly affect how interactions unfold. Developing emotional radar involves paying attention to body language, vocal tonality, energy levels, and the subtle shifts that occur when certain topics are raised or certain people speak. You start to notice when someone's words don't match their emotional state, when there are undiscussed tensions between individuals, or when the group energy changes in response to particular triggers. Understanding group roles and dynamics also helps you navigate complex interactions more skillfully. Different people naturally fall into different roles within groups. The leader, the supporter, the challenger, the peacemaker, the entertainer, the observer. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand how you can contribute most effectively and how to work with, rather than against, the natural group dynamics. Sometimes, the most valuable contribution you can make is stepping into a role that's missing or supporting someone who's already filling an important role effectively. If there's natural leadership emerging, you might be most helpful by being an effective supporter rather than competing for leadership. If there's conflict, you might be most valuable as a peacemaker rather than taking sides. The skill of strategic positioning involves understanding how to place yourself within group dynamics to maximize your positive impact and minimize unnecessary conflict or tension. This doesn't mean being manipulative or fake. It means being thoughtful about how your natural personality and strengths can best serve the group's needs and goals. Strategic positioning also involves knowing when to lead and when to follow, when to speak up and when to listen, when to challenge and when to support. These decisions should be based on reading the current dynamics and understanding what the group needs in that moment, rather than following rigid personal patterns or trying to always play the same role. Advanced social navigation also requires understanding and respecting different communication styles and cultural backgrounds within diverse groups. What feels like confident leadership to one person might feel like aggression to another. What seems like appropriate directness to some might feel rude or insensitive to others, with different cultural backgrounds or personality types. This cultural and stylistic sensitivity allows you to adapt your communication approach based on the preferences and comfort levels of different individuals within the group. It doesn't mean losing your authenticity. It means expressing your authenticity in ways that can be received and appreciated by diverse audiences. The ability to diffuse tension and redirect negative dynamics is one of the most valuable social skills you can develop. Groups inevitably experience moments of conflict, misunderstanding, or negative emotion. And someone who can skillfully address these situations without making them worse is incredibly valuable and attractive. Tension diffusion might involve acknowledging different perspectives without taking sides, introducing humor appropriately to lighten the mood, redirecting conversation toward common ground, or simply modeling the calm, respectful energy that you want to see in the group. The key is intervening early before conflicts escalate and become more difficult to resolve. Reading and responding to group energy levels is another sophisticated social skill. Groups have natural rhythms of energy that ebb and flow throughout interactions. Sometimes the energy is high and playful. Sometimes it's serious and focused. Sometimes it's tired and ready for closure. Matching and working with these energy patterns rather than fighting against them makes you a more effective and appreciated group member. This might mean introducing energizing activities when the group seems sluggish, suggesting more relaxed conversation when people seem overstimulated, or recognizing when it's time to transition to different topics or conclude the interaction. Being attuned to group energy and responsive to group needs demonstrates sophisticated social intelligence that others find attractive and valuable. The development of these skills requires conscious practice and observation. Start by focusing on one aspect at a time, such as power dynamics or emotional undercurrents, until you become more naturally aware of these patterns. Practice in lower-stakes situations before applying these skills in more important professional or social contexts. Remember that the goal is not to manipulate or control group dynamics, but to understand them well enough to contribute positively and navigate them skillfully. When you can read social situations accurately and respond appropriately, you become someone others seek out for important interactions because they trust your judgment and value your positive influence. Chapter 12. Sustaining attractiveness through continuous growth and self-development. One of the most common mistakes people make when developing attractiveness is treating it as a destination rather than a journey. They work on building confidence, improving their social skills, or developing their presence until they reach a certain level. And then they stop growing and start coasting. This approach inevitably leads to stagnation and decline because attractiveness, like physical fitness, requires ongoing maintenance and continuous development. The people who remain consistently attractive throughout their lives understand that personal development is not a project to be completed, but a lifestyle to be embraced. They maintain their appeal not through any single quality or achievement, but through their commitment to ongoing growth, learning, and evolution as human beings. The psychology of continuous growth reveals why this approach is so fundamentally attractive. Humans are naturally drawn to people who are expanding, evolving, and becoming more capable over time. There's something inherently magnetic about someone who is actively engaged in the process of self-improvement and life enhancement. This attraction to growth is rooted in our evolutionary psychology. Throughout human history, the ability to learn, adapt, and develop new capabilities has been strongly correlated with survival and thriving. People who continue growing signal that they have the mental flexibility and resilience needed to handle whatever challenges life might present. Continuous growth also prevents the staleness and predictability that can undermine long-term attractiveness. When you're constantly learning new things, developing new skills, and exploring new aspects of yourself and the world, you remain interesting and dynamic. There's always something new to discover about you, which keeps relationships fresh and engaging. The foundation of sustainable attractiveness is what researchers call intrinsic motivation, the drive to grow and develop that comes from internal satisfaction, rather than external rewards or validation. People who are intrinsically motivated to improve maintain their development efforts even when no one is watching or rewarding them, because the process itself is fulfilling and meaningful. Developing intrinsic motivation for growth requires connecting your development efforts to your deeper values and long-term vision for your life. When you see personal growth as an expression of your commitment to becoming your best self, rather than as a way to gain approval or achieve specific outcomes, you're more likely to maintain your efforts consistently over time. This means choosing growth opportunities that genuinely interest and challenge you, rather than simply following what others think you should develop. It means pursuing excellence because you value excellence, developing skills because you enjoy mastery, and expanding your capabilities because you're curious about your potential. The practice of continuous learning is fundamental to maintaining long-term attractiveness. This doesn't necessarily mean formal education, although that can be valuable. It means maintaining curiosity about the world and your place in it, seeking out new experiences and perspectives, and remaining open to changing your mind when you encounter better information or ideas. Continuous learners are attractive because they're mentally alive and engaged with the world around them. They have interesting things to talk about, fresh perspectives to share, and the intellectual humility to admit when they don't know something and want to learn more. They avoid the intellectual stagnation that makes people boring and predictable. The areas of learning that tend to enhance attractiveness most include emotional intelligence, communication skills, cultural knowledge, creative expression, physical health, and fitness, and whatever professional or personal interests genuinely fascinate you. The key is to maintain active engagement in multiple areas, rather than becoming narrowly focused on only one aspect of development. Physical health and fitness deserve special attention because they affect every other aspect of your attractiveness and life satisfaction. Maintaining physical vitality requires ongoing commitment to exercise, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. This isn't about achieving perfect physical appearance, but about maintaining the energy, confidence, and presence that come from feeling physically capable and healthy. The attractiveness of physical fitness goes beyond appearance to include the qualities that maintaining fitness requires and develops: discipline, persistence, goal-setting ability, and the confidence that comes from overcoming physical challenges. These qualities are attractive in themselves and tend to enhance every other aspect of your life. Emotional and psychological development is equally important for sustained attractiveness. This includes developing greater self-awareness, emotional regulation skills, empathy, resilience, and the ability to form deeper and more meaningful relationships. These internal qualities create the foundation for all external expressions of attractiveness. Ongoing emotional development might involve therapy, meditation, journaling, reading psychology, and personal development books, seeking feedback from trusted friends, or working with coaches or mentors. The specific methods matter less than the commitment to continuing to understand yourself more deeply and develop greater emotional intelligence and maturity. Creative expression and skill development also contribute significantly to long-term attractiveness. Having creative outlets and areas of developing expertise makes you more interesting and gives you sources of satisfaction and confidence that don't depend on other people's approval or validation. Whether it's music, art, writing, cooking, gardening, craftsmanship, or any other creative pursuit, having areas where you're developing mastery creates depth and richness in your personality. It also provides conversation topics and ways to connect with others who share similar interests. The maintenance of social and relationship skills requires ongoing attention and practice. Even if you've developed strong social abilities, these skills need to be exercised and refined to remain sharp. This means continuing to put yourself in social situations, seeking out conversations with diverse people, and working on becoming an even better listener, communicator, and friend. Advanced relationship skills include learning to navigate conflict more skillfully, developing deeper empathy and understanding, becoming more skilled at supporting others through difficulties, and learning to balance intimacy with independence in healthy ways. These skills can always be developed further, regardless of your current level. The practice of regular self-reflection is crucial for maintaining growth momentum. This involves regularly assessing where you are in different areas of your life, what's working well, what needs improvement, and what new areas you want to explore. Without this reflection, it's easy to coast on past achievements without continuing to push yourself forward. Self-reflection might involve weekly or monthly check-ins with yourself, annual goal setting and review processes, seeking feedback from trusted friends or mentors, or working with professionals who can provide objective perspectives on your development. The key is maintaining honest awareness of your current reality and continued commitment to growth. Setting progressive challenges for yourself ensures that you don't become complacent or stop pushing your boundaries. This means regularly setting goals that require you to stretch beyond your current capabilities, whether in professional, personal, creative, or physical domains. These challenges should be significant enough to promote real growth, but achievable enough to maintain confidence and momentum. The process of setting, working toward, and achieving meaningful goals develops confidence, competence, and the attractive quality of being someone who makes things happen rather than just letting life happen to them. The integration of continuous learning, physical maintenance, emotional development, creative expression, social skill refinement, regular self-reflection, and progressive goal setting creates a lifestyle of growth that maintains and enhances attractiveness throughout your life. This approach ensures that you remain interesting, capable, and engaging, regardless of age or circumstances. When growth becomes a core part of your identity and lifestyle, you naturally attract others who value development and excellence. You become part of communities and relationships that support and challenge you to continue evolving, creating upward spirals of growth and satisfaction that benefit every area of your life. Chapter 13. Handling rejection, criticism, and social setbacks with grace and resilience. Nothing tests your attractiveness and social intelligence like how you handle rejection, criticism, and social setbacks. These challenging experiences are inevitable parts of life, and your response to them either enhances or undermines your appeal to others. People who can navigate these difficulties with grace, learn from them constructively, and maintain their confidence and warmth despite setbacks are incredibly attractive because they demonstrate emotional maturity and resilience. The psychology of rejection reveals why it affects people so powerfully and why learning to handle it well is so important for maintaining attractiveness. From an evolutionary perspective, social rejection was literally life-threatening for our ancestors, because survival depended on remaining part of the group. Our brains still process rejection as a threat to survival, which explains why it can feel so devastatingly painful. However, in modern life, most social rejection is not actually threatening to your survival or well-being. Learning to differentiate between the emotional intensity of rejection and its actual significance allows you to respond more proportionally and maintain your emotional equilibrium when facing social disappointments. The most attractive people understand that rejection often has little to do with their inherent worth or attractiveness, and much more to do with compatibility, timing, circumstances, and the other person's current needs and preferences. This perspective allows them to take rejection personally without taking it as a judgment of their fundamental value as a person. Developing this healthy perspective requires understanding that attraction and compatibility are highly subjective and contextual. Someone might reject you not because you're unattractive or unworthy, but because you're not what they're looking for at this particular time, because you remind them of someone who hurt them, because they're dealing with personal issues that make relationships difficult, or simply because there's no chemistry despite your individual qualities. This understanding allows you to maintain compassion for both yourself and the other person when rejection occurs. Instead of becoming bitter, defensive, or self-attacking, you can acknowledge the disappointment while recognizing that rejection is often about incompatibility rather than inadequacy. The skill of handling criticism gracefully is equally important for maintaining attractiveness and continuing to grow. Criticism, whether constructive or not, tends to trigger defensive responses that can make you less attractive and prevent you from learning valuable information about yourself and your impact on others. Attractive people have learned to receive criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness. They listen to understand what truth might be present in the feedback, even if it's delivered poorly or with negative intentions. They separate the useful information from the emotional charge and use criticism as data for self-improvement rather than evidence of personal attack. This doesn't mean accepting all criticism as valid or allowing others to treat you disrespectfully. It means developing the emotional regulation skills to hear feedback without immediately becoming reactive, and the discernment to evaluate whether criticism contains useful information for your growth. The practice of extracting value from negative feedback requires asking yourself questions like, is there any truth in this criticism that I can learn from? What might I be doing that's creating this response in others? How can I use this information to improve? What does this tell me about this person's values or preferences? This learning orientation toward criticism makes you more attractive because it demonstrates intellectual humility, emotional maturity, and commitment to growth. People are drawn to those who can handle feedback well because it signals that you're safe to be honest with, and that relationships with you will involve mutual growth rather than defensive interactions. Social setbacks, such as embarrassing moments, social mistakes, or conflicts with others, provide opportunities to demonstrate resilience and grace under pressure. Everyone experiences these situations, but how you handle them significantly affects how others perceive you and whether they want to continue interacting with you. The most attractive response to social setbacks involves acknowledging what happened without dramatizing it, taking appropriate responsibility without excessive self-blame, learning from the experience without becoming paralyzed by it, and moving forward with confidence intact. This might involve offering a genuine apology when appropriate, using appropriate humor to diffuse tension, or simply acknowledging a mistake and moving on without making it the center of attention. The key is responding proportionally rather than either minimizing serious issues or catastrophizing minor mistakes. Developing resilience requires building what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to see situations from multiple perspectives and find constructive meanings, even in difficult experiences. Instead of interpreting setbacks as evidence of personal failure or social inadequacy, resilient people view them as learning opportunities, character-building experiences, or simply part of the normal challenges of human interaction. This cognitive flexibility allows you to maintain hope and motivation even when things don't go as planned. You can experience disappointment without becoming discouraged, face criticism without becoming defensive, and encounter rejection without losing confidence in your worth and attractiveness. The practice of self-compassion is fundamental to handling social difficulties gracefully. This involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a good friend going through similar challenges. Instead of harsh self-criticism when things go wrong, self-compassion involves acknowledging that difficulties are part of the human experience and that you deserve kindness, especially from yourself. Self-compassion doesn't mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, faces rejection, and experiences social difficulties, and that these experiences don't negate your value or potential for future success. Maintaining perspective during difficult social experiences requires remembering that most social interactions and relationships are part of larger patterns rather than isolated events. One rejection doesn't mean you're universally unattractive. One criticism doesn't mean you're fundamentally flawed. One social mistake doesn't mean you're socially incompetent. This broader perspective allows you to maintain confidence and motivation even when individual interactions don't go well. You can view setbacks as temporary experiences rather than permanent judgments, which allows you to continue taking social risks and pursuing connections without being paralyzed by fear of negative outcomes. The ability to bounce back quickly from social difficulties is incredibly attractive because it signals emotional resilience and stability. People want to be around those who won't be devastated by normal life challenges, who can handle conflict and disappointment without becoming dramatic or dysfunctional, and who will remain positive and engaging even when things get difficult. This resilience develops through experience with adversity and conscious practice of healthy coping strategies. Each time you face a social challenge and handle it well, you build evidence of your ability to cope with difficulties, which increases your confidence for future challenges. Learning from setbacks without becoming bitter or cynical requires maintaining openness to growth while protecting your fundamental sense of self-worth. This means being willing to acknowledge and correct mistakes while recognizing that mistakes don't define you. Being open to feedback while maintaining healthy boundaries, and continuing to take social risks while learning from past experiences. The integration of healthy perspective on rejection, graceful handling of criticism, resilient response to setbacks, cognitive flexibility, self-compassion, and the ability to learn from difficulties creates an approach to social challenges that actually enhances rather than undermines your attractiveness. When others see that you can handle difficulties with grace and continue growing from challenging experiences, they're more likely to trust you, respect you, and want to build deeper relationships with you. This approach to social difficulties also creates positive cycles where your resilient responses to challenges improve your social skills increase your confidence, and make you more attractive to others, which leads to more positive social experiences and greater overall social success. Chapter 14. Becoming a person. Others. Seek out. The principles of social magnetism. The highest level of social attractiveness is becoming someone that others actively seek out, not just tolerate or occasionally enjoy spending time with, but someone whose company is genuinely valued and desired. These socially magnetic individuals have developed a combination of qualities that make others feel better about themselves and more alive when they're around them. Understanding and developing these qualities can transform you from someone who struggles for social acceptance to someone others compete to spend time with. The foundation of social magnetism is what psychologists call positive emotional contagion. Emotions are literally contagious, transmitted through mirror neurons and unconscious mimicry. When you're around someone who consistently embodies positive, stable, engaging energy, you unconsciously begin to feel more positive, stable, and engaged yourself. Socially magnetic people have learned to maintain emotional states that others find uplifting and energizing. This doesn't mean being artificially positive or denying negative emotions. It means developing emotional regulation skills that allow you to process difficulties privately and show up in social situations from a place of genuine well-being and positive energy. This positive emotional presence is attractive because it offers others a break from the stress, anxiety, and negativity that many people carry. When someone encounters a person who consistently radiates calm confidence, genuine warmth, and life energy, they naturally want more of that experience in their lives. The development of positive emotional presence requires working on your internal state through practices like regular exercise, stress management, meaningful work, healthy relationships, and activities that bring you genuine joy and satisfaction. You can't fake positive energy consistently. It must emerge from actual well-being and life satisfaction. The second principle of social magnetism is what researchers call unconditional positive regard. This means approaching others with fundamental acceptance and appreciation for who they are, separate from whether they can give you anything or meet your needs. People are magnetically drawn to those who make them feel accepted and valued without conditions or judgment. This doesn't mean having no standards or boundaries. It means recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of others while maintaining healthy expectations for how you want to be treated. It means being able to appreciate people's positive qualities while being realistic about their limitations. Unconditional positive regard expresses itself through genuine interest in others, non-judgmental listening, and the ability to see and acknowledge people's strengths and potential. When others feel truly seen and appreciated by you, they naturally want to spend more time in your presence because the experience feels validating and life-giving. The third principle is what we might call social generosity. This involves looking for ways to add value to others' lives through your presence, skills, knowledge, connections, or support. Socially magnetic people are constantly thinking about how they can be helpful, encouraging, or enriching to the people around them. Social generosity might involve sharing useful information, making helpful introductions, offering emotional support during difficult times, celebrating others' successes, or simply bringing positive energy and interesting conversation to social interactions. The key is giving without keeping score or expecting immediate returns. This generosity creates positive cycles, where your investment in others' well-being motivates them to invest in yours, leading to deepening relationships and expanding social networks. People seek out those who consistently make their lives better in some way, whether through practical help, emotional support, or simply enjoyable interaction. The fourth principle is intellectual and emotional stimulation. Magnetic people are interesting to be around because they bring fresh perspectives, ask thought-provoking questions, share fascinating experiences, and engage with life in ways that inspire others to think and feel more deeply. This doesn't require being brilliant or having extraordinary experiences. It requires maintaining curiosity about life, continuing to learn and grow, and being willing to explore ideas and experiences that expand your understanding of yourself and the world. Intellectually stimulating people read widely, pursue diverse interests, travel when possible, engage with different types of people, and maintain active engagement with whatever subjects fascinate them. This creates a depth of knowledge and perspective that makes conversations with them enriching and memorable. Emotional stimulation involves being willing to explore deeper topics, share meaningful experiences, and create space for authentic connection rather than keeping all interactions at surface levels. People are hungry for genuine connection and are drawn to those who can facilitate meaningful interaction. The fifth principle is what researchers call social leadership, which doesn't necessarily mean formal authority, but rather the ability to positively influence group dynamics and help social situations become more enjoyable and meaningful for everyone involved. Social leaders might initiate conversations, suggest activities, introduce people to each other, diffuse tension, or simply model the kind of energy and engagement they want to see in the group. They take responsibility for contributing to positive group experiences rather than just passively participating. This leadership emerges naturally when you combine genuine care for others' well-being with the confidence to take initiative and the social skills to guide interactions in positive directions. People are drawn to those who make group experiences better and more enjoyable. The sixth principle is authenticity and emotional transparency. While this might seem contradictory to maintaining positive energy, the most magnetic people have learned to be genuinely themselves, including appropriate sharing of their struggles, uncertainties, and growth areas. This authenticity is attractive because it gives others permission to be real as well, rather than maintaining exhausting social facades. When you can be both positive and real, both confident and humble, both strong and vulnerable, you create space for deeper, more meaningful connections. The key is sharing authentically in ways that invite connection rather than dumping emotional burdens on others inappropriately. It means being real about your human imperfections while taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being and growth. The seventh principle is what we might call social intelligence in action. This involves reading social situations accurately and responding in ways that enhance rather than detract from group dynamics. It means knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to lead and when to follow, when to introduce new topics, and when to explore current ones more deeply. This social intelligence also involves understanding and working with different personality types, communication styles, and cultural backgrounds. Magnetic people know how to connect with introverts and extroverts, direct communicators and indirect ones, serious people and playful ones. The integration of positive emotional presence, unconditional positive regard, social generosity, intellectual and emotional stimulation, social leadership, authenticity, and social intelligence creates a quality of social magnetism that draws others consistently and powerfully. When you embody these principles, several things happen naturally. People begin reaching out to you more frequently. You get invited to more social events and opportunities. Others seek your advice and perspective. You become someone that people think of when they want to have meaningful conversations or enjoyable experiences. This social magnetism creates upward spirals where positive social experiences lead to increased confidence and social skills, which lead to even more positive social experiences. You become part of social networks that support and challenge you to continue growing, and you develop relationships that enrich every aspect of your life. The development of these qualities requires patience and consistent practice, but the investment pays dividends that extend far beyond social success, to include professional opportunities, personal growth, and life satisfaction that comes from meaningful connections with others. Chapter 15. Integration and Mastery. Becoming naturally attractive through authentic self-development. The journey from trying to be attractive to naturally being attractive represents a fundamental transformation in how you relate to yourself and others. This final chapter integrates everything you've learned into a coherent approach to life that creates lasting attractiveness through authentic self-development rather than performance. The goal is not to add attractive behaviors to an unchanged personality, but to become a person whose natural way of being in the world is inherently magnetic. This transformation happens when the principles we've explored become so integrated into your identity that they express themselves automatically, without conscious effort. True mastery of silent attraction occurs when you stop thinking about being attractive and start simply being attractive. This happens when your internal development reaches a point where confidence, emotional stability, social intelligence, and genuine care for others emerge naturally from who you are rather than what you're trying to do. Attractiveness is not a collection of separate skills, but an emergent property of psychological and emotional development. When you develop genuine confidence, emotional intelligence, social skills, and personal depth, attractiveness emerges as a natural byproduct. The foundation of this integration is authentic self-expression. This means developing such a clear sense of who you are, what you value, and what you stand for, that you can express yourself genuinely in any situation without losing your center or compromising your integrity. Authentic self-expression requires extensive self-knowledge. Understanding your strengths and weaknesses, values and priorities, natural communication style, and genuine interests and passions. When you know yourself deeply, you can be yourself consistently, creating the coherence and authenticity that others find magnetic. This authenticity is attractive because it's rare. When others encounter someone who is genuinely themselves regardless of social context, it's both refreshing and inspiring. It gives others permission to be more authentic as well. Developing authentic self-expression requires courage to be yourself, even when it's not popular or immediately rewarded. Express your genuine thoughts respectfully. Pursue your real interests rather than what you think will impress others. And make decisions based on your values rather than social pressure. This courage develops through practice and positive experiences with authenticity. Each time you express yourself genuinely and experience acceptance, you build confidence in your authentic self. Each time you compromise authenticity for approval and feel dissatisfied, you strengthen your motivation to be more genuine. The integration process involves effortless excellence, developing the skills we've discussed to such a level that they become automatic expressions of who you are, rather than conscious techniques you remember to use. Effortless excellence develops through deliberate practice, consistently working on skills just beyond your comfort zone, with full attention and intention to improve. Over time, advanced skills become natural and automatic, allowing you to focus on even higher levels of development. This means practicing emotional regulation until maintaining calm confidence becomes your natural state. Developing social intelligence until reading group dynamics and responding appropriately becomes instinctive. The goal is natural competence that allows you to navigate life's challenges with grace and effectiveness while remaining genuinely yourself. The transformation also involves shifting from external validation to internal satisfaction as your primary source of self-worth. When your sense of value comes from your own assessment of your growth, contribution, and authenticity, rather than others' approval, you become more attractive because you're not needy or desperate for validation. This internal orientation allows you to engage with others from abundance rather than scarcity. You can be genuinely interested in others because you're not constantly worried about whether they like you. You can express yourself authentically because you don't need their approval to feel good about yourself. This shift requires developing intrinsic motivation, where your drive to grow comes from internal satisfaction rather than external rewards. When you're motivated by the joy of learning, the satisfaction of contributing, and the fulfillment of expressing your authentic self, you become naturally attractive because your energy is positive and self-generated. The mastery of silent attraction involves understanding that true attractiveness is about service to others rather than personal gain. When you develop yourself to contribute more effectively to others' well-being and happiness, attractiveness emerges as a natural byproduct of your positive impact. This service orientation doesn't mean self-sacrifice or people-pleasing. Develop yourself to be genuinely helpful, supportive, and enriching to others' lives. When people feel better about themselves and more alive when they're around you, they naturally want more of your presence. This contribution-focused approach ensures your growth benefits not only yourself but everyone you interact with, creating positive cycles that enhance every area of your life. You become attractive not because you're trying to be, but because you're genuinely making others' lives better through your presence, skills, and attention. The final aspect of integration involves understanding that this transformation is ongoing rather than completed. Authentic self-development is a lifelong process of growth, learning, and evolution. The most attractive people understand that they're always becoming rather than already finished. This growth orientation keeps you interesting and dynamic throughout your life. There's always something new to discover about you, new depths to explore, new skills being developed. This continued evolution prevents stagnation and keeps you engaged with life in ways that inspire others. The integration of authentic self-expression, effortless excellence, internal validation, service orientation, and commitment to ongoing growth creates a way of being that is inherently and sustainably attractive. You become someone others naturally want to be around, not because you're performing attractiveness, but because you're genuinely living in ways that create positive experiences for everyone involved. This transformation represents the ultimate goal of personal development. Becoming a person whose natural way of being creates value for yourself and others while expressing your authentic potential. When you reach this level of integration, attractiveness becomes not something you do but something you are, emerging naturally from the depth of your character and the quality of your presence in the world.